What's up guys, I'm Nathan and in this video I'm back with the updated anime adventures tier list for the new Bleach update. Now I've missed a few updates, but yeah, we're finally back. So once again, S tier is going to be for units that are dealing above 7000 DPS. That's what was voted for before, though I will probably be posting a poll once again, so in case you guys want to increase the limit for characters being in S tier. By the way, 7000 is just for pure DPS characters. If they are support, they will also get a spot in S tier. A tier is going to be for characters dealing above 2000 DPS. B tier is going to be for characters, well, that are under 2000 DPS, but like above, say, around 1000 DPS. C tier is below that, and D tier is just for the worst of the worst characters. First of all, we have Jin. He's kind of just an average character, honestly. I don't see anything special that he does. He's doing only 6500 DPS, not meeting our cap. He has only a line AoE, if I'm right. He does have good range, but still, because of his lack of very good AoE, for now I'm just gonna place him in A tier. Once again, if there's anything you disagree with, let me know, and if necessary, I will be making the changes. Now, next up we have Magna. Now, he's a pretty decent legendary, so I suppose he will be in B tier. He's got over 1000 DPS. Then we have Yuno Spirit, definitely going to be in S tier because he is an air unit, and yeah, that's obviously going to be essential. Then next up we have Kenpachi Maniac, definitely going to be in S tier because Kenpachi, if I'm right, he's already meeting the limit, which is 7000 DPS. And he's got 25 range with a full AoE stun, and that's actually really good. I'm not really putting the S tier units in order, since anyway it really depends on what you're using it for. Then we have Luck Thunderfiend. So he basically is going to be gaining 25% damage maximum as long as he keeps staying in battle due to a status effect called Bloodlust. He's got a decent AoE, not particularly good, and he's got a good range of 40, so I think that puts him in a pretty solid S tier. Then we have Kuma. Kuma, if I'm right, is just gonna be the leaderboard unit, so he's gonna be in low A tier because he actually does deal above 2000 damage. Then we have Dark Aster, one of the highest damage dealers just for physical. He's got pretty good base damage, actually very good base damage, coming in at 9000 with pretty solid AoE, though he is a bit lacking in range with only 26 range. Still, he's still a very good character. Then we have Shinji. He's definitely a pretty good legendary, though he is a mythic, not mythic, he is a limited, so I mean he's still not exactly easy to get, but he does deal around 1700 damage per second. Then we have Ichigo Final Dusk, or Ichigo Mugetsu. Honestly, I'm putting him right up there because his base DPS is pretty solid. Now, it's kind of debatable whether or not he's high or low S tier. I'm not sure if he hits, some people say that he does, some people say he doesn't, so I will have to wait until that information is like kind of confirmed. But he's already dealing as a base around 7000 DPS. He's got a Gojo type of line AoE with 45 range, but his ability is what makes him interesting. He does 10 times of his base damage to the map, and then he vanishes, meaning you essentially have to spend around, well, if you just want to get his ability, in which case he's going to be doing around 380,000 damage with that ability. In that case, you're going to have to spend around 45,000, and if you want to max him out, 60,000. Now, I'm not sure if Unique is going to be working on these manual abilities, but if it does, then Ichigo Mugetsu could be really broken, because if you use Unique, then he's going to be having 4 times that damage, and you can just keep placing him down, and when he vanishes you can just place him down again, since his main usefulness is not going to be in just his base DPS, but rather in his ability. Then next up we have Tengen, who was also from one of the updates that I missed because of exams. So he is obtainable from the Soundsteel Star in the Infinity Dungeon, in the Infinity Castle. He does a very solid 4300 DPS with 28 range and reasonably good AoE cone. I'll go ahead and put him right here. he's a decent character considering his difficulty to get. Now we have Julio. Honestly, he could be really good if you use unique, because the thing is, Julio is one of the few characters which you can only place one of him, meaning he can actually take a huge benefit from unique. Now I know basically any character can get broken with unique, but the thing is, you anyway can only place one of him, and he's got an insane base DPS, so you can basically get unique without any kind of drawbacks. And his base DPS is an insane like 13 to 14,000. Plus, he has an ability that can rewind time. So overall, he does have a lot of potential to be a really good character. Then we have Sui Feng, I think. He or she, I think it's a she. I've not watched Bleach, so I'm sorry if I make any mistakes in the gender. But this character is definitely going to be right there next to Yuno. If I'm not mistaken, it's the physical version of Yuno with a bit more range, similar-ish DPS, a bit lesser actually. Good AoE as well as being a heal unit, of course. So definitely a very solid character. Then we have Lelouch, who's going to be right about there. He does have his manual ability and he does do summons. It's just that it's not particularly good. I'll probably put him below Tengen. Then we have Ace. Ace is actually going to be in C tier because I do not think... I'll actually put him bottom B tier because if I'm not mistaken, he does burn and you also can place down 5 of him. So then we have Luffy. He's just bad. Then we have Gohan, future Gohan. He was the previous one of the first leaderboard unit, if I'm not mistaken. Future Gohan is decent. He's actually very close to our limit of 2000 DPS, but he's only at 1900 DPS, so he's just going to be top of D tier. Eren is a summoner, and he's not a very good one at that. Then we have Genos, we have Sanji, who's cheap to place down, Piccolo with a bunch of range, so he'll be right there. Then we have Levi, who can actually get a lot of DPS with his crit and his bleeding. Levi actually got a bunch of buffs. However, his AoE is still terrible. He does have a whopping 6,400 DPS if you take the average of it, but kind of less range and of course bad AoE. Plus, he's not meeting our cap for reaching S tier, and he definitely doesn't deserve an S tier for obvious reasons. However, he is a heal unit, so I'll go ahead and place him above Tengen. Then we have Speedwagon. He'll be there because he does give you money. Then we have Arkanu. He was kind of buffed on his first couple of upgrades, so that's pretty good. I'll still put him around on par with Levi because he's just severely outdamaged by Levi, which is why I might just have to put him there because he only does like 2000 DPS. In fact, he's barely making the limit, but he does have a lot of range and AoE, so that's why I'm keeping him there. Crocodile is actually a really good epic to start off with, I'm not gonna lie. I'll put him at bottom of C tier. Then we have Zenitsu, not really a very good one. We have Gaara, who's actually going to be able to stun your enemies, which is pretty good. Then we have Law, who has decent DPS, but not particularly insane. Then we have Erwin, who I'm not really sure. I mean, he is good, but I'm going to keep him bottom of S tier. Like I said, I've come back after a while to the updates, so I'm not really sure if Erwin is still in the meta. He does still give you a 25% buff. However, it's only going to be to physical units. However, there's actually a bunch of really high damaging physical units, so he's not completely useless. It's just that it was a pretty big nerf, which is why it's going to be at the bottom of S tier. Then we have Whitebeard, who's going to be right about there. He is able to push back enemies, which is why I'll go ahead and put him above Tengen. He also has a fairly reasonable DPS of 3100, so I mean, he's not bad. Then we have Blackbeard, who will be right there due to the fact that he curses enemies, which is a reasonable support. We have Goku Black, who will be right there, good AoE. Mihawk has bad AoE, but well, decent DPS. Sakura, I'll actually keep in bottom of A tier because she's going to be boosting, if I'm not mistaken, both physical and magic units by 10%, which is actually not bad because the other buffing units were kind of nerfed since they don't work for every character. Then we have Jeliel, who's definitely a pretty good character for hitting air. Jalil, his DPS is only 5650, which is actually a bit lesser than Yuno, so I'll go and put him lower. But he's still, I would say, deserving a spot in low S tier at least, because he's still kind of useful. Then we have Yami. Now, Yami has like 6650 DPS, but he's got an extremely narrow AoE line. He's got good range, and he has a passive that makes him ignore shields, and he can just strike right through those shields. But in a way, it's not even a good thing, because that means that for the better damaging units, he's actually not going to be helping them in breaking down the shield. So I'm actually just going to go and put him in like a high A tier, I would say, because I don't really feel like he's deserving of the S tier spot. But I mean, he's not terrible, I just don't really recommend for you guys to get him. Then the next up we have is Gildarts. Gildarts is definitely going to be up there in S tier. He's a really good shield breaker, so he's actually quite useful just for that purpose, because he has multi-hit, and that's really good for breaking shields. Then we have Giorno. Giorno does not reach our limits, so he's going to be in C tier. Then we have Urza Trueheart. Now, Urza Trueheart, I'm pretty sure is the one with the crit. So she's not bad, but I think she's like the worst. Actually, never mind. Urza's Trueheart, I got mixed up. Urza Trueheart is the one that bleeds. Valkyrie is the one with the crit. But Urza Trueheart's pretty good. Reasonable AoE. Bleeds with 7200 DPS. So I think that should put her in a decent spot in S tier. Yeah, I think that should be about right. Then we have Megumi, who's just a really good support unit. I would say right about here. Then we have Kento Nanami, who I'm not really sure if he's really that high anymore, but he's still a very good character. So I'll go and put him in a solid S tier. He's going to be able to keep increasing his damage as time goes by, meaning he can actually reach very high DPS. But it's no longer really high compared to most of the new characters, which is why he's actually dropped down in the ranks. Then we have Yuta Cursed. Yuta is actually a really good character because he just has insane DPS, that is 8500, with a lot of range. You can only place down 3, but that makes him actually pretty good when you have Unique on. So I'll put him in a decent spot in S tier. Then we have Goku Blue, who is not that great. Then we have Josuke, who stuns, but it's not really that good. So I'll put him right there. Then we have All Might, who's actually a really, really good support. So he's going to be right about here. He's going to be able to push back the enemies, so that is actually quite helpful. Then we have Frieza. Like I said, this tier list is not really ordered. It's just for overall. Then we have Todoroki. He would probably be making a spot in C tier because he is able to burn as well as slow down. So he does have other usefulness. Then we have Broly. Honestly, I'll even put these 3 in because they do have some very slight usefulness when it just because they do have buffs. Now Broly, he was buffed, but he's still not that good. He's only got 1400 DPS, but I'll still put him in A tier because of his godly AoE. I think he would deserve a spot right about there. Then we have Urza Valkyrie. Again, a decent one. Actually, this is the one with crit, so it doesn't have any particular use, but it is above the 7000 DPS mark. Then we have Killua. He's not that great. He's going to be right about there. Then we have Madara, who was actually receiving a lot of buffs. And the buffs were quite good, actually. Putting him at around 5200 damage per second with 31 range. Very good AoE with burn as well. So he's actually a pretty solid character. Then we have Burma, obviously S tier because, well, it gives you money. Then we have Kakyoin, who's going to be right there. Then we have Shanks, who time stops, but obviously it's not going to be that great because his DPS is very, very outdated. So I'll put him right about here, above Broly probably and Lelouch, because he does have that ability of time stop. Then we have Lucy, who is a summoner, but well, not really that great. I'll go ahead and put her right about here. Yeah, I think that would be a decent spot for her. Yeah. Then we have regular Luffy, pretty bad. Gojo, it's kind of debatable, but I think I would still put Gojo as the best character because you don't need to waste so much cash on him to make him good. And he's got limitless upgrades. You can just keep making him better as time goes. So it's just pretty good, I guess. Plus, he has the time stop for the entire map, so he's not really replaceable. Then we have Wendy, who, if I'm not mistaken, is the buffing character that we received a couple of updates back. And this one is the one that buffs the magic units, and it's actually by a higher percentage than Irwin. It's by 30%. Then we have Mariah, Shadow Lord. That's going to be only 6,440 DPS, meaning he is not going to be in S tier, but I think he still should be above Jing. Jin is not that good. Then we have Noelle, who's actually really good on story mode, so I think I would put her right about there. She's a pretty good character. Then we have what's his face? Overhaul. So he actually gets a bit worse when you upgrade him in terms of SBA, but he will get a bigger AoE, so I would say he is one of the better epics. Then we have Kizaru, who hits air, not a bad unit. Then we have Diavolo. Diavolo has like no DPS, but like, I mean, I think he deserves a spot on bottom A tier just because of the fact that he's going to be able to slow down the entire map. It's just that it's kind of useless as a buff, so I'll put him like right at the bottom of A tier. Then we have Rengoku. This is his unevolved version, so he is going to be, of course, really low. Then we have Dio. Dio isn't meta, but I mean, he's still a decent unit, especially for beginners. He's going to be able to time stop. He's going to be able to be really good for challenges and stuff. Then we have Urza Lightning. I'll probably speed this up now a bit. So Urza Lightning probably going to take a spot a bit higher. Because if I'm not mistaken, she actually damages a bit higher. Also Lightning 6,350, a bit higher than Yuno. So I think deserves a pretty solid spot right there. Even Jeliel can be up a bit. Then we have Armin, who actually received a bunch of buffs, putting him at 3,000 damage per second. Plus there's instant activate, meaning he's actually better than Broly. So his buffs finally put him above. He got so many buffs. He actually needed those buffs. Then we have Karakuri. He's going to be able to slow down those enemies, which is really helpful even against the slow bosses. So definitely going to be right there in S tier as a support. Then we have I accidentally moved Gojo down. Then we have the next up we have Cell. Cell is definitely a really good character who I would say deserves a spot among the other air units. These four air units are just all pretty good, and you can honestly use either one of them. It doesn't really matter. That's Suifeng. I think that's all of them. Where the heck did Urza Lightning go? Urza. Okay, my eyes just went away somewhere. Then we have Itadori, that is in his Sukuna form, and he's also really good because he has his Dismember, which makes the enemies take more damage until they're dead, which is honestly really helpful, and since you can place 4 of them down, it actually puts a lot of DPS. And he also has a decent DPS with Bleed, if I'm not mistaken, so that's pretty good. Then we have Pain. He'll be right about here because Pain does push back enemies. I'll put him probably in B tier. It's not that great though. Then we have Gyotaro. He'll be right about here because he is a time stopper, so that's definitely helpful for beginners. We have Itachi, who'll be right there. He's got his Amaterasu burn. We have Geto Maximum, definitely a good unit. I'll go ahead and put him also along with Oza Lightning. Both of these are really good. Then we have Perona, who slows down airs, obviously going to be really helpful. She's going to be right there. Then we have Trunks, who will be a bit under Gildarts, I would say. If I can find Gildarts, yeah, he's right about there. Trunks is a bit worse version of him, but I still think he deserves a spot in S tier, as he is a full AoE shield breaker. Then we have Darby, one of the worst ones. Then we have Brooke, who actually buffs, a really good character. Then we have Eren. Eren Founder with Unique is decent, but it's still not exactly feasible. I'll put him right about here though. He's still a pretty solid unit. Then we have Naruto Beast Cloak, who is kind of bad actually. I'll put him in high B tier. Then we have the regular Naruto, who will be right about here. Zeke is also going to be right next to him, but he does have more range and he's a heal unit. Then we have Jozu, who is actually a bleeder, but he's only got 2700 DPS, so it's definitely not going to be enough to put him in a spot there, so I'll probably put him right here. Then we have Noro, who I would say makes it to the B tier. Then we have what's his face? I'll just align. Yeah. Then we have Toka, who's gonna be I would say right next to Noro. Both of them are really good, but Toka, you can place 5 of them. Then we have Tatara, who has a 2x burn, so it's definitely a reasonable unit. Put him right there. Then we have Renzi, who will be a bit lower down. Once again, you can place 5. Then we have Ito, who has lesser than 1700 DPS, but she does gain damage, so I'll put her right there. Then we have Kaneki. Wow, we really have a lot of units. Kaneki will be right here because he does have the ability to bleed. Then we have Arima. Arima is a decent character, but I do not think, if I'm right, I don't think he meets our requirement to put him in S. Yeah, he has only 550 damage. He's got a decent AoE, but I would say that puts him right about here. He's actually a decent character, but I would say worse than Madara. No, yeah, that should be about fine. Then we have Akaza. This is the unevolved version of Akaza, so that's still a decent DPS, so I'll put him in a solid like B tier, I would say. Then we have Rengoku's evolution. He's gonna be a burning unit, so it's pretty decent, I guess. I'll just quickly go ahead and check out his stats. Rengoku. Okay, he definitely doesn't meet our requirement, coming in at only around 3550 DPS. Although he does have burn, but yeah, his evolution is gonna be, I would say, alongside Akenu. Then we have Akaza, who will be right about there. Then we have Grimjow. Akaza does self buff, by the way. Then we have Grimjow, who I would say makes it to a low spot in B tier. Then we have Hollow Ichigo, who will be right there. We have Blue Devil, who will be alongside Gohan because he does have full AoE. Then we have Ulquiorra, who's actually a hybrid, but his DPS is a bit on the lower side. I'll still put him in a low spot on S tier, just because, well, hybrids are pretty good. Then we have Coyote Stark, who will be, I would say, probably alongside Madara, a bit lower. He does have his exploding bolts, but it's still not going to be enough, I would say. Then we have Uryu. Uryu is pretty good, but I would say still about here only. He does have his crit, which actually contributes to some DPS, but it's only around 2275 DPS, so it's not actually a lot. Though he does attack quite fast. Then we have Kisuke Bankai, who's going to be a buffer. So I would say he should be right about here. Then we have the regular Kisuke, who will probably be just about an A tier because the unevolved version of himself is not as good. Then we have Aizen. He will be getting a good form by next update possibly. So Aizen's gonna be currently, though he's not good, all he does is like push enemies back from the end, so I'll go ahead and put him right there. Then we have Rukia, who's pretty good. You can place 4 of her. We have Hisoka, another really good one. He slows down. Then we have Pito, pretty decent bleeder, so I'll go ahead and put her right about there. Then we have Killua. Killua is actually not bad. I'll put him, go ahead and put him in low S tier because he will be able to stun those units with a really fast SPA. Then we have Netero, who will be right about here. Netero's got like decent DPS, 4800, but it's not enough to put him in S tier. He's got a good AoE as well. Actually, I might put him down right there. Madara is probably better. Then we have Miriam, who will be top of A tier because he hits air, but his DPS is a little bit lacking. We have Gon, who will also be, I would say, towards the high end of A tier. Then we have the unevolved version of himself, who's going to be probably right about here. Then we have Kite. Kite is definitely not going to be meta. He's just going to be like right about here. He's just not very consistent. He's decent, like 4200 DPS, but like I said, not very consistent as a unit because his mechanics keep changing, so I'll put him right there. And then we have Gray, who is a really good character because of his freeze, so I'll put him right about here. Then we have Juvia, who's a really good legendary. I'll put her right there. We have Gajul, who's also pretty good. We have Natsu, who's good against the ice enemies, but people don't really go into that much often anymore, so I'll put him a bit lower on S tier. Then we have Nobara, who hits air, which is actually quite good for a legendary. Then we have Toad, who actually stuns, which is once again quite good, so I'll go and put him right there. And then we have Nightmare Luffy, who should have a spot right about here. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this tier list. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. This is a pretty long one, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. See ya.